The Model Shop live scale modeling show is brought to you by Tenant Controls, makers of lighting kits, soundboards, and more. Tenant Controls brings your models to life. Well, hey there, everybody. Boyd here with you again, and welcome to episode 102 of the Model Shop, the live scale modeling show. We're coming to you tonight live from our shop here in San Antonio, Texas. It's mighty cold out here tonight. I've got my space heaters cranked up so we can do a show for you guys tonight. We've almost got some icicles hanging on the sides of the roofs here down in San Antonio, so that's kind of unusual for around here. But we're going to have some fun out in the shop tonight. We've got some cool stuff to show you on the show tonight. We're going to be doing some work on the bench tonight on this 1/1000 scale USS Excelsior kit. Dale Anderson, one of our viewers, sent us a couple of these kits a few weeks ago, and we said we were going to get started on these when we got cranked up again after coming back from our little break. So I've been doing a little bit of work on this kit, and I've got a lot done on it so far. We're going to do a little bit of work tonight on the we're going to be installing a special control board in the model to have a firing photon torpedo effect in this. So we've got our little board from Tenant Controls, and we're going to go ahead and wire that up and show you how that works tonight so I can get it ready to put into the model. And we're going to kind of get you guys caught up and review what we've done on the model so far for the work. I put out a video yesterday on the TrekWorks YouTube channel showing what I've been doing on it so far. I wanted to put together sort of a guide, step-by-step guide for people that want to build the model, and if they want to do some lighting on it, and maybe you can check out some of the techniques I use. You know, like I mentioned in the video, there's all kinds of different ways you can do it, but I've been using some of these miniature SMD type lights, and they're working out really good for this particular model because it's really small, and we're pretty happy with the results so far. Got a little bit more work done. I just earlier tonight got the secondary hull glued together and closed up with all my kind of octopus wires coming out of it. We're going to have to move on from there, work on the saucer next. The next video on the TrekWorks channel will probably be out Tuesday, and I'll be working on the saucer. I've been doing some work getting the windows roughed in on that, and we're going to have to put all of our lighting in that as well. So I have the engine nacelle assembly pretty much done, and I'm going to show you that here in just a little bit. And then also, we just got this into the shop today, or the other day I should say. We've got the brand new, geez, this thing's big, 50th anniversary Classic Enterprise kit. You guys might know that this is hit the market now. It's shipping, and it's a fantastic kit. It's They put the news out there a while back that this kit now includes the smooth saucer instead of the saucer that we're all familiar with that had the engraved grid lines. And I just had a quick glance at this, and me and a couple of my friends were chatting about it the other night. We discovered a couple of differences between this kit and the original release. So we're just going to kind of pop this out of the box. It's not going to be like a whole huge kit review because that's been done several times, but we're just going to kind of highlight some of the things that we saw that were different, maybe take a look at some of the new parts that are included in this. And between that and the work that we're going to be doing on the bench tonight with the Excelsior, we should have quite a full show for you. Just want to point out, keep on sending us those pictures, guys. For our next slideshow, it kind of slowed down a little bit. I think probably people are kind of busy with the holidays and everything, but we don't have quite enough pictures in yet to do a new slideshow. But we get a few more, maybe in the next week or two, we'll be able to do a new slideshow and get you guys caught up with that, with what everybody in the community is working on out there. So keep sending those photos, guys. It's you can send those to my email. That's info@trekworks.net, and we'll go from there. Okay. Just talking about the schedule here a little bit on the show. Of course, we're going to be off again next week, and then we'll be back the week after that. So if I forget between now and then, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. We've got that coming up next weekend. So I hope you guys all have a nice, get to spend some nice time with your family and enjoy the holiday season. Then we've got New Year's after that. I didn't look at the calendar to see what date New Year's falls on, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do a show the week after Christmas, as long as it's not on New Year's Eve or something like that. I'll have to go look, but other than that, things are going to move forward as planned, guys. And our new startup time, of course, now is 7 o'clock Central Time, USA time, and it's working out a lot better for me already. I was able to get things going here and not have to worry about being late. So appreciate you guys being patient with that and putting up with our little changes that we do now and then. Okay, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to crack open the box on this brand new 350 scale Classic Enterprise kit, have a look at that, and then we'll come back after that segment with some work on the bench tonight, getting that tenant controls board wired up, and I'll give you guys an update of what I've further progress I've made on the Excelsior. Love that little kit so far. I built the Enterprise B a while ago, just a static model of it. I didn't do any lighting or anything, but I'm really liking how the kit's going together, and it's the nice little changes they made to it. It's going to be a beautiful little model when it's done. We're going to get that mounted up on a nice little Polar Lights base, and I think I'm going to put a sound card in there and some other cool things on that, so you guys will get to see that when it gets all wrapped up. And if you want to follow along with that on the regular channel, I'll have a step-by-step, like I said, assembly guide for that by the time it's all done, for anybody that wants to give it a shot. So we hope you'll check it out. Okay, guys, right back after the break. Sit tight. We'll see you in just a few seconds. Okay, everybody. Well, we're back with you again, and this box is so big that it'll barely fit on my bench here. But you can see this is the beautiful. Let me see if I can get you a little bit better on this, guys. This is the beautiful brand new kit from Polar Lights of the 50th anniversary Classic Enterprise, and as you can see right off the bat, they've changed the box art on the kit a little bit. It's kind of nice, and the big news is that we get some new parts with this kit. We get a new smooth saucer, which a lot of people wanted originally when this kit came out. The bad news is on that is if you do want the grid lines on this now, the way they were done on the original studio model, which was with some pencil lines, you're going to have your work cut out for you when you try to do that. You're probably going to have to use a some type of a compass. You've got the dead center here of the lower planetary sensor and the very tip of the bridge here. So if you start off, you could pull that off, but it's going to be quite a task. They do give you a little bit of a template guide for trying to figure that out. But anyway, that's kind of another story for another time. But let's go ahead and pop the lid on this monster kit here and take a look. Now, one of the cool things I noticed right away is they give you this nice little insert now, which is nice because it will stand up. It's got all your... I'm going to have to turn this upside down so you guys can see it. Apologize for the glare off the... this thing's really glossy. Now you've got all your color callouts for the model all the way across the top here, which you can see there's quite a few different ones. Interesting thing that I noticed here is that they've got the Enterprise hull color here indicated, but they've also got another hull color indicated, which is this one right here, which they call the pilot version, which was more of a whitish gray color. If you can see the difference between this one and this one. Once you get one of these kits, you'll be able to see it a lot more clear. Because everybody kind of knows that as time went on, they started adding sort of that green weathering all over the ship as they moved along further into production. So the ship kind of got a little bit greener and a little bit darker looking versus the way it looked in the original first couple of pilots. So that's cool. But you've got all your decal placement guide here now, your paint guide. And the nice thing about this is that you can stand this up on your bench and look at it while you're working now, whereas before everything was on the box and you had to kind of fiddle around with the box, shuffling it and turning it around and things like that if you were trying to get your references. So that's a nice little addition that they included in the kit. We'll get that out of the way. And I think it would actually make kind of a... Let's look at this one more time. I think it would actually make kind of a cool poster to hang up in your room. Put a little frame around that. That'd be pretty spiffy, don't you think, guys? I think so. Might have to hang on to that. So let's check out the parts now. I'm not going to pull anything out of the bags. Most of you guys have seen these before. I'm just going to talk about some of the things that are different on the kit. The very first thing that we figured out when we were discussing this the other night was that the kit used to come with 3 complete sets of window inserts, which were molded in clear, black, and sort of an opaque white. Well, the black and the opaque white parts are now completely gone, which they can kind of fit everything easier into the box now than they used to. I mean, it used to be just crammed in there before. But I'm kind of disappointed in that because I actually used, whenever I build these, and I build several of these things, I would use a little bit of the black parts and I used a little bit of the white parts. I used the white parts, we'll look at this insert here again to give you some reference. Whenever I build my ships, these little rectangular, long rectangle windows or whatever they are at the top, skylights or whatever they are at the top of the saucer, I used to use those in white because they had that nice diffusion already built into them. I also use the ones that go at the bow here, that little round one there, and the 3 that are at the front. Because if you look at the original filming miniature, that's kind of how they looked. The other windows were kind of more clear, but those were like kind of fogged over white looking, so I used to use those. And then on the side of the ship here, get this glare off of here, you can see that on the production ship that this little grouping of windows right in here, kind of in the engineering area, were always blacked out. So I would always use that little group of windows right there from the black set, and then also up here in the pylons, you got these, unless we're going to light those, I kind of leave that up to the choice of my customers whether they want those lit or not. But if they're not going to light them, then we used to use those black inserts there. But anyway, those are gone now. So you're going to have to do your own diffusion. I'll just have to paint some white paint on the back side of the glass and paint the other inserts black, and just a little bit more work. But just found it kind of weird that they would decide to omit those parts. So basically, you've got all your clear parts here the same way they were before. You've got all your main window inserts and your lower sensor dome, your bridge top, your little dome for the back by the shuttle bay, the usual stuff. So that's, like I said, just a little bit more work, but not a huge deal. It looks to me like the color of the kit's still the same. The gray parts are still the same color that they were before. I don't see any changes there. You got your Bussard accent rings here. You got your impulse deck. You got your nacelle end caps there. The grill inserts molded in that same kind of gray that they were before. Looks like the deflector dish housing is basically the same here too. You still get the extra spikes, if you want to call them those, if you were going to do the pilot version, that you could put on the domes, the end caps of the Bussards. You don't get the extra Bussards. In the original Premier Edition kit, you of course were able to build 3 different versions of the ship, either first or second pilot or production version, and you got extra Bussard covers that actually had the hole drilled in the center to mount these. But you could still do that yourself if you wanted to on this ship. Of course, you'd have to get a different bridge and different nacelle end caps, but they still make the supplemental parts pack if you want to make a different version of the ship. That's still available, so you can kind of think about that. Here we have the original Polar Lights mounting dome base with the hollow steel rod to run your wires up through there, so it's good that they didn't change that. And more clear parts here. Got your Bussard domes and your inner spinner assemblies. Everything looks to be pretty much the same in there. This little second sprue right here has got all your smaller marker lights and things like that. Bridge, sensor dome or sensor housing, and the shuttle bay doors, shuttle bay floor, all the basic stuff that we had before. Like I said, looking at this, the color looks like it's still exactly the same. We've got our neck and our pylons and everything in here. Just looking at the molds, they look pretty good. Now there are some occasional issues with this model. Since I built so many of these, I'm getting kind of familiar with them. Actually, I can see them in my sleep, actually. But the molds for this seem to vary kind of greatly. Like you'll get one that there'll be some sort of ripples in it, and I'm going to show you when I pull out the secondary hull and the nacelles. Now on the pylons and on the neck, I've never seen any kind of problem. Every once in a while, the pylons might be a little bit warped when you get them, but you just clamp them together with some good glue, and that takes care of that problem without much further work needed. I've never had any problems at all with the neck. The necks always fit together really good. All the small parts have always fit together really good. But as we look at the, it's kind of hard to tell unless I pull it out of the plastic, but as we look at the secondary hull here, what I'm seeing on some of these kits that I'm getting are, every once in a while we get a few ripples in them here and there, and they seem to be located where these inner bulkheads are located. It's like almost like when they pulled it out of the mold, they didn't let it cool off enough first or something like that, and it kind of sunk in a little bit, or they didn't inject quite enough plastic into it when they did the mold injection. I'm not sure what the problem is. And then occasionally the windows have a lot of flash in them, and some of these holes are almost completely sealed off, so you got to go in there and hand file them and cut them back open and clean them all up. Now this particular one I'm looking at right now, it looks to be really clean as far as the windows go on it. And like I said, until I get it out and start sanding on it a little bit, I can't really tell if it has any really bad ripples in it or not. But it's almost like if you could picture like you know, a quarter panel on a car that's an old car that's been kind of beat up, where you can kind of see the waves in it. That's exactly what this has been looking like on some of these kits. And so in order to fix it, you know, you just have to, what I do is I'll spray it with a little bit of gray primer, and then in the car painting business, we spray what we call a guide coat, which is you just lightly dust over that with some flat black, let it dry, and you take a flat block of some kind. You can use like a sanding foam block, you know, one that's kind of stiff. Put your paper on there and you just start sanding it back and forth a few times. And what happens is everywhere you have a low spot or a high spot, the low spot, the black will stay there. That's, you know, it's an old trick that they use in the auto body business to find dents and ripples in the panels so that they can put some filler in there and then block sand it all smooth and get a nice smooth surface. So you basically go through and do that, and then whatever your little low spots are, I just take a little bit of the this type of putty, which is the red 3M filler putty, and just put it on there and then block sand it down again, and I'll repeat that process 1 or 2 times, and that'll usually take care of it. The dips aren't severe. I haven't seen any like really bad ones, but enough to where if you paint the model real nice and everything, get a nice, you know, smooth paint job on it, if you look down the length of it, you would definitely notice it if you didn't fix it. So as I said, some kits no problem, other kits I've seen that issue on there. If they're severely bad, I would recommend that you just contact Polar Lights, and they'll probably send you some new parts. I've heard of people doing that before already, so they're pretty good about that. Kind of the same thing on the nacelles. I've seen ripples in the nacelles, and I've also seen them where they were bowed, you know, warped really bad, where it took a lot of pressure to, you know, once you glued them to hold them together. But I've never had a set yet that I couldn't salvage. I just put a lot of glue and then, you know, clamped them up really good and let them dry thoroughly overnight before I tried to do anything further with them, and it usually wound up working pretty good. Same thing, if I see any ripples on these, I'll just do that same thing I was talking about on the secondary hull with, you know, a guide coat on here and block sand them out and see where I can find any low spots. Now, on these, occasionally what I've had happen too is that they'll have a really bad, what we call a step. In other words, when we put the two halves together, one whole lip might be higher than the other one. So all along that whole seam, you're gonna have to you know, sand that down before you even try to put any putty on it. Just trying to fill it in with putty, you'll be doing a lot of putty work. If you see a step or something like that, you want to go ahead and fix that on the plastic. Get the plastic itself as fitting as good as possible before you start your putty work. So I've seen that kind of come and go on these kits too, where occasionally it's, you know, kind of a really pronounced misalignment there, and other times when they fit like a glove. So it's just kind of their molding process, I think, and how they do it, because I know they're all being made at the same factory. They don't have more than one place where they're doing it, but you know, just kind of looking at these, it's kind of hard to tell through the plastic again, and I won't know for sure until I try to glue them together, but they look to be kind of standard issue. They look to be pretty good. I mean, just at a glance, I don't see any really huge defects or anything in them, so that's good. Now, here's the whole reason we're talking about this kit now. This is the new saucer. So this is worth taking out of the bag and checking it out. So let's go ahead and do that. See if I can notice any differences in it at all. But now the nice thing is that if you built this kit before in the past yourself, you'll know that this area here is usually full of sprue, and some really thick sprue too, where it's I'll usually start off by using this pair of heavy-duty side cutters and getting in here and clipping that stuff out, and then taking my Dremel tool and going here and cleaning this back up. So it's nice that they've got that opened up for you now, so all it's going to require now is a little bit of cleaning up around this edge. But this actually feels to me like it's molded out of slightly thicker material than the other stuff was. It is definitely rigid, and it feels kind of heavy, but you can see it is like polished smooth. It's really nice. You got your little detail here back by the impulse deck still in place like it should be. We got a little bit of flash in these inserts. It's not usually there. I've never had to clean that up before on the other kits, but I'm sure that's going to clean up pretty easy. Um, I think these holes right here maybe have been made a little bit bigger because on the original kit they're definitely too small. When you try to push that that little detail part down on there, I always had to go and hog these out just a little bit for that to drop down and sit down nice and flush. Otherwise it was like really hard to put it in there. So I think they made those holes a little bit bigger. But the nice thing about this, not only being a smooth saucer now and the grid lines are gone, the original kit, the plastic had a really rough surface all over the top of it. It almost felt like sandpaper, and it usually would take 2 or 3 coats of primer and then sanding in between. I would use like a 320 and put my filler, some pretty good heavy filling type primer on there, and I would block sand it in between to try to get rid of that texture. And that's the key on this model before anyway, to where when you wanted to lay down your decals and everything, that you didn't get that silvering effect, where you see the little air pockets or the little white spots underneath your decals. Even though you paint it and everything, that texture would still be there unless you really went to town with your primer and your your sandpaper. So this is going to save me quite a bit of work now, not having to worry about that, because this thing is just absolutely baby smooth. In fact, it's going to have to be scuffed up pretty good to make sure that the paint will stick to it. It's that smooth, if we had to do any masking or anything on that, something that's polished like that, you gotta scratch it up a little bit, so your primer will have a good something to grip onto it. Back side of it, it's so shiny my camera's trying to go blurry here. Let me see if I can get her back in focus here. There we go. The back side of it is doesn't look like there's any changes at all. It looks like it's identical to the way it was before. Just talking about a little thing that I do, I usually cut these little tabs right here off, and I cut these tabs right here off when I build these, because they kind of squeeze together, and that's where I run my wiring for my navigation lights and everything, kind of right along this line. And this thing right here, I'm not even sure what it's for. I guess it's maybe to try to support the neck or something a little bit, but it always interferes when you're trying to get the saucer down and get it clamped down nice and tight, and I don't see where it really serves any purpose, so I always get rid of those things. But this is one beefy part here, guys. This is really this is a heavy-duty piece here, and they did a nice job on that. And let's look at the bottom now. Now here you can see they still have that sprue in there, and just holding it up, you can see how thick that is. That's tough sledding getting that out of there. It's your regular number 11 hobby knife is not going to cut through that. I usually take my grinding tool and start off in the middle and just start grinding my way through it, and then working my way out to the edges until I get a little play in it, and then I can kind of reach in there and rock it back and forth until I get it out of there. But so that guy's still there. The windows look nice and crisp all the way around the edges of the saucer. They did do a readjustment here of these windows right here. I think they're windows, or they're just marker things or whatever they are. They were in the wrong location on the original kit. They were not off by a lot, but they were off by a little bit. They were a little bit back too far, so they've gone ahead and done that fix. So that's a nice little adjustment they made. And the only detail we have on the bottom of the saucer now are these concentric rings, and if you can see them here, the hatches for the landing gear that we never got to see on this ship. It was supposed to be able to detach the saucer and actually land on a planet, I guess, and kind of look almost like the Jupiter 2 from Lost in Space. But so I'm seeing no issues with this at all. It looks really smooth. I don't see any dips in it or anything. It's going to be beautiful when it's painted. I think the smooth saucer is the way to go. It's a lot more like the way that we remember the original Enterprise looking. So, like I said, a lot of us, when they were getting ready to release this kit, back when they were going to do their premiere edition, they had a lot of discussion going on about it, and I think they even took kind of a poll or whatever it was, and overwhelmingly people didn't want those grid lines in there, but they went ahead and did it anyway, because their thinking was that if you wanted to have them, they were there, and if you wanted to get rid of them, it wasn't really that hard to putty them in and get rid of them. But that's quite a bit of work. I've done that on a couple of these so far, and it's not as easy as it sounds. So this is the better way to go, I think, and I think they finally made everybody happy with that. And of course, you can buy that part separately if you have an old kit and you want to upgrade. I think it runs around 40 bucks or something like that. Here we've got the decals. I'm not going to pull these out because you guys have seen these all before, but I can see through the yellow paper on these that it doesn't look like there's anything different on these at all. They look like they're the same. I hope they use the same decal manufacturer, because the decals for this kit have been absolutely outstanding. I've never had one single issue with decals, and I've built I think 13 of these now, and I've never had one single issue. They're on some nice sturdy transfer film, and they lay down really nice. And if you do your prep work, you can get them to lay down on there where you can't even tell they're decals. So I mean, if you use a little Solvaset or decal solution on them, and then put your dull coat over the top, they look like they're painted on. I've never had any problem with them at all. Never had them rip or crumble or the ink come apart or anything like that. So hopefully they're the same decals as they always were. We'll just take a quick look at the instructions now. Looks like the instruction sheet is been made a little smaller and a little less complicated. They've got kind of everything kind of compacted down here a little bit, and of course they've got the new box art updated photo there on the decal sheet. Yeah, it's basically the same set of instructions, but it's just been condensed a little bit. And as far as that goes, I can't see any changes to it. So there you have it, guys. There's the brand new kit. Of course, I'm going to get busy building this right away. I've got several clients waiting for these things, and so I'm really glad that they've repopped the kit. I was starting to run low on where I was going to get kits for my customers, but this is a fantastic kit. I've been in love with it ever since it first came out. I never get tired of building it. I've wanted ever since I was a kid. I've got to finally get around to building my own production version of this ship. I built a pilot a couple years ago now, but I've never built my own. I'd like to build my own with the nice, quiet Tenna controls, lights, and everything in it. I'll get around to it one of these days, guys, but you can see it all packs back into the box a lot easier than it used to when they had that extra stuff in there. But so it's a beautiful kit. They made some nice little touches to it, little changes, subtle little things. We lost a few parts, but it's not a killer. We can, as I said, we can go back and do that extra little bit of painting to get our detail the way we had it before. And you get this cool little stand-up guide for doing your painting and your decal work, which you can put on your wall and have a really cool looking poster if you're a Star Trek fan when you're done. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this segment. Time to get to work now. I've got a lot of work to do tonight. We're going to get our Tenna Controls photon board working, and I'm going to show you some updates on what we've been working on the ship so far of our USS Excelsior, the 1/1000 scale kit. So sit tight. We'll be right back again, guys. One more break coming up. All right, everyone, moving right along now. We're on to the USS Excelsior build that I'm doing. Uh, of course, this is the 1/1000 scale kit. One of our viewers, Dale Anderson, out there. I want to thank Dale again for that. Sent us a couple of these kits and just basically said have fun building them. So we said we were going to start working on this. So we're going to do a little work on it on the show tonight. I'm trying to get this finished by the end of the month. There's a Model of the Year contest going on. I've got a couple entries over there so far. They said you could enter up to 5 models, so I think I'm going to try to get this one finished and enter that one in that contest over there as well. That's at sci-fiantasy.com. Some of you guys might be members over there. It's a really cool little sci-fi website run by Kenny Conklin out there, who posts a lot of articles and stuff from various sci-fi model builders, and people have their own little blogs and stuff over there. It's a pretty cool site. But here's what I've got going on so far, guys. I posted a picture of the ongoing work on the nacelles. I decided to build this whole thing here just kind of as a sub-assembly, and then I'll basically drop it down onto the top of the secondary hull at the very end when I get everything else done. But it's been a long work in progress. This thing is small, and we packed a lot of detail into this. The biggest issue that I had was the chiller grills on this ship are, supposed to be lit all the way around the perimeter here on each side in blue, and since they're so tiny, I knew right away we were going to have an issue with what we call hot spots if we used some LED tape, which I knew right away that I was going to want to use LED tape. That was the easiest way to get the full length of lighting in here rather than trying to, I don't have any of those acrylic tubes. There's a method you can use where you can put like a piece of acrylic round tubing and put a really bright LED at each end and have it light up and give it a nice uniform. There's also this product out there called glow rods that kind of do that. But I've heard stories about the glow rods is that they have a really limited lifespan, whereas LED tape will last, hundreds of thousands of hours. So I knew I was going to use the LED tape. Well, sure enough, when I started doing my experimenting around, I found out that they were going to have some pretty severe hot spots in there. You'd see every little individual LED lit up, and it wasn't going to look good. So I explained a little bit on the video I put out the other day about what I did to fix that. It was a combination of things. I wound up putting, painting the grills to begin with in blue, and then upon doing some further research, I found out that the Excelsior and the Enterprise B, basically, when their engines are not on, the grills were sort of a gunmetal gray, and so I had thought of this technique where I had sprayed the inside of the grill in a little bit of white. I took my airbrush, after I painted the outside of the grills in, to me, a transparent blue. I thought I was just going to leave them that way, but then I started looking again at some more pictures and thought, okay, I got to do a little bit more than that. And then to solve my diffusion problem, I sprayed some white on the inside, just really lightly dusted it with my airbrush, and I also used a small piece of paper. I just took some regular office paper and I cut a long strip of it out, and I folded it into sort of a triangle shape that you can think of it as sort of a, sitting like this on top of like a tent. And I had that laying in there. I put everything together, and that took care of my diffusion problem. I didn't have any hot spots coming through anymore, and I liked it. Well, then as I said, after I did my research and found out that the grills were basically that gunmetal gray on the outside and not blue, I thought, okay, well, maybe I don't need the paper in there now, because so what I did is I just took my airbrush and did the same thing. I just lightly dusted over the outside of the grills this time and got them that, if I can hold this up for you, I've got them the gunmetal gray now, as you can see. And I had done something similar to that a long time ago on my Enterprise D to get that copper sort of look on the grills when they're not lit, but yet when they turn on, the blue lighting would still come through it. The trick to do that is you've got to have your airbrush turned on really low at low pressure, and you want to thin your paint just a little bit more than normal. And when you spray it on, you want to make sure you go in a nice, even, steady spray, and really be careful as far as the distance that you keep, because if you get too close, you're going to make like a dark spot in there. In other words, you get the paint too thick, and it will look kind of cloudy when it's when the light tries to come through it after you're done. So I was just really careful, and I just lightly dusted a coat of this gray on the grills, and I lit it up after that. Well, then of course with that extra amount of paint on there, it took care of the hot spots that I was having an issue without the paper in there. So I went ahead and took the paper out and got rid of that. That would have worked just fine. Somebody said that the paper would go bad, but I doubt that would happen, and the paper would last for like probably longer than the rest of my life. Being all sealed up in a model like this, I don't think it would have ever went bad. But anyway, so you could have used the paper. I thought about maybe using some styrene in there, but styrene, when I tested it, it was just too thick. It was gonna block too much of the light, and the engines were gonna wind up being too dim, and I didn't want that either. So, but the state of where they are right now, since you last saw them in the last picture I showed you guys on the model shop page, is that now I've also gone ahead and painted the detail of the colors that are supposed to be here on the tops of these grills. You've got this sort of blue, and then along the sides it's got like a little bit of a duck egg blue, a little strip of that on each side. If I can turn it around here and show that to you. And it's all been fully assembled. It's got all the caps put in place. It's been painted. My camera here is not going to show it, but it's been painted in a really nice, I decided to do this model in a nice iridescent pearl white, and it's a two-part. I know they make a Tamiya pearl, but I use a two-part here where you basically spray down a coat of regular white, and then you just lightly dust your iridescent pearl white over the top of it, and it gives it a really beautiful effect. And so these are pretty much finished up and ready to go. What I'm going to do is turn the power on for you and turn this light down, and so you can see the effect we're getting on our nacelles. Of course, the camera always blows these up. Let me turn this other light off over to the side here. The camera always blows these guys up more than what they should be. We all know that. But you can see I've got my two marker lights here at the rear, which are going to be flashing. Those will be strobe lights. They're just hooked up to be constantly on now, so I could test them. That will be hooked to a separate circuit, and that's the board we're actually going to install on this little Tenna Controls navigation board. So they'll only be that bright when they flash, and they're not as bright as they look on camera either, guys. They're just not. They're in person. They're nice little small pinpoints of light. Up here at the front, we've got our sort of floodlights. You can see those just below the grill there. They actually will point forward and show a little bit of light on the back of the saucer. Those will be constantly on, like they're supposed to be. And then we've got one more here, located in this area right here, that's going to flash at the same rate that these do. I did my research on the Excelsior, and we had a strobe light on each tail. We had one here, we have one on the belly, and we have one up on the bridge on the saucer, and that's it. Now, interestingly, just like the Enterprise D, I found out the navigation lights on this ship don't flash. They're just constantly on. So we're not going to use our Tenna control board. Gives us the ability to have both navigation and strobe lights. Well, it seems like kind of a shame to waste it, but we want to try to do we want to try to make the ship look authentic the way it did in the movie. So I'm going for the way the ship looked in the Undiscovered Country, the NCC 2000, when Sulu was in command of the ship. So we're going to have our strobe lights only. The navigation lights are just going to be constantly on, and I've got those worked into the hull. I showed a little bit of that in the video, just doing my test lighting. I got the cargo bay lit up, and I got some of my navigation lights, and we're going to have a firing photon torpedo effect again, using one of Ralph Tonaglia's boards from Tenna Controls. So these are beautiful. They're ready to go. All I've got to do now is get my Aztec decals and decal these all up, and then put a sealer coat on these, and put the markings on it, the little numbers and all that, and the little pin striping, and these will be done and ready to go. Let me get the lights back up here, and we'll move on to the next part. Show you what we've got going on here with the secondary hull. She's looking kind of ugly right now. Let's see, let me get this. First we'll get this lower saucer over here for you, and the top saucer too. So you can see I just sealed this this morning. I glued it, so I'm just right now going in through and doing my my seam work, my putty line around the top and the bottom. You can see I've got it all masked off so I don't get any putty on the parts of the model I don't want. But I've just got this little gap that we had right here when you glue them together, so I'm filling that in. I'm going to come around here and do it the same on the other side. I've got her all sanded and smoothed out. I just had some white primer on this before. I've got these little windows drilled in right here at the rear section. It's kind of hard to see them right now, but all the windows have been done on the model. Again, this overhead light is really nasty. That took a lot of work, but I used the decals as a template. I explained how I did that in the video I put out yesterday, but let's light this for you once more, just to give you an idea. Find my power wire here. There we go. So just before I sealed it up, I tested everything out. I've got all these extra wires coming out that are going to go up through the neck and into the saucer, and the ones coming out the bottom are going down into the base. I'll turn that down, get these wires out of the way so you can kind of see the lighting here a little bit. Now keep in mind, guys, that they're overly bright right now, and they're going to look really twinkly because there's nothing in the windows yet. These are just open. When I put my micro crystal clear in here, that's going to take all these down, and they're going to look smaller, and they're going to look a lot more even because the light's not really coming to the surface completely. So like when you move it around, they might disappear a little bit. But when that's all brought to the surface, when that window is flush and the light is reflecting on the back side of that, what will actually be a lens in there at that point, they're going to look a lot better, and it's going to get rid of all that. You can see the LEDs in the background, you know, twinkling and all that. That will all go away once this is all been buttoned up. Now here's our kind of half covered up there. There's our deflector. We did a lot of work to get that to look good. At the back here, we've got our marker lights. Wire is hanging all over the place. Sorry for that, guys. Got our marker lights there. We'll have the 2 photon torpedo tubes here that fire. We've got our cargo bay detail here with our marker lights there. A little closer to that. That came out really good. And you can kind of see it here a little bit. Let me turn this down. I actually you can see this is actually a little shuttlecraft that's mounted on the deck here, and we've got 2 little lights that we did here with a couple of SMDs in the hangar bay. You've got this little piece. You have to open this part up to have the hangar bay doors open. This is just really rough right around the edges right now. That's all going to get painted, but this piece goes over the top like this, and as you can see, we're going to have our little whoop, it's too far back. There we go. Let's get this set in the right place here. You can see we're going to have our little shuttlecraft in there with the engines lit, which is going to look pretty cool. That neon blue engine look that they had. And also the little forward, it's kind of not showing up too good here, but it does on a better camera. I'm going to take some nice still pictures and a good video of this. But the little forward window, or kind of the windshield part of the shuttle, is lit up too, if you can see it. But that's a pretty neat little effect, and it was pretty easy to do. For those of you who haven't seen the other video, I'll just briefly explain what I did. This part right here is all one piece, and it's molded in regular white styrene, so I know that you can shine light through that, and if you don't light block it, it'll leak light really bad. So I just mounted an 0805 SMD right below the shuttle in the middle of it, and then I just took some Tamiya transparent blue paint and painted the area there with a brush where I knew that the engines were going to be, and then I just carefully went in here and about this much of it painted all this by hand with a brush. I painted the gray on the deck right up to the edges of the shuttle, and then I painted the shuttle itself black first with a little bit of light blocking black, and then I painted the rest of the body of the shuttle that sort of off-white color that it's supposed to be, and all I did was leave the narrow little slits right there where the blue engines are, and that's our Tamiya, original Tamiya paint that's given it that effect. So it worked out really good. It's not fiber optic or anything like that. It's just coming right through the white styrene. So that's a nifty little trick you can do on yours if you want to, or maybe you can even take it beyond that with your own imagination. So we've got that. Let's get back to more here. I'm working on the lower saucer. Now you can see, oh, this light really blows up this white. I took some sprue from the kit and I made these mounting pegs in here. The reason for that is that we have our neck, and the neck is a weak spot on this model. You know, you've got the big saucer hanging out on that, and the neck only, you know, it didn't have any mounting holes or anything. It just sits on a flat surface. So I remember when I built my Enterprise B, I didn't really like that. It looked like it was kind of weak to me. So I've got these pegs in here. I use some of this Ambroid Pro Weld, which is some really strong stuff for gluing styrene together to glue those pegs in, so they're never going to go anywhere. And I'll use that same thing on the inside here, because I'm going to put this down onto the top plate first, which I also have some pegs on that. Glue those, and then the way I build these models is that these starships is that I'll put the the bottom part of the saucer on here. Once the neck's been glued down, you know, the bottom part of it's been glued down onto that top plate, and you can see that I opened up the entire area there so that I can reach in there now and I can glue the top part down from the back side. I don't have to worry about, you know, gluing this edge or whatever and then maybe having some glue squish out and ruin my paint job or whatever. And there's no lighting in this area right here, so we don't have to worry about light leaks or anything. So it'll have mounting pegs on the top and the bottom, and that's going to make that a lot stronger, and I won't have to worry about it. And plus I've got them perfectly centered so where I know when I've got it down on there it's lined up straight and everything. It's not, you know, I'm not going to wind up with a crooked saucer or anything like that. So that's a little modification that's really easy to do. I've got all these sensor openings opened up so that we can light these. Now the ones on the sides I'm going to have lit a little bit dimmer just so they're kind of illuminated, but the one facing forward and the one facing towards the neck, I'm going to have an SMD mounted in there so they give a little bit of a floodlight on the neck, and I definitely want my floodlight coming forward here that's going to light up the USS Excelsior name here and all that on the bottom of the saucer. I've got my 2 holes drilled here for the navigation lights, and I've got to do one more up front for the bow light. But this part here is getting pretty close to being ready to go. And then we've got the top saucer. Let's see, I don't know what I did with the bridge. Oh, here it is. Now, as you know, you get parts to build the NX 2000 or the NCC 2000. Now, there's a difference. I wasn't all that familiar with it, so I had to go online and look, and the instructions do not tell you which parts are for which, so you have to go figure it out. Now, you have a sort of a more round looking bridge, and you have this more sort of, the camera may not show it too well. You got this one with a kind of a point on the front of it. Well, that's the one that should go on the NCC 2000, and we see that we had a little strobe light there located just behind the dome on the bridge. So I've got a 0805 SMD mounted in there. That'll get painted black from the back side so it doesn't leak any light, and then these wires are going to drop down through that hole right there, and our bridge will be sitting flush on top with a nice strobe light effect going on there. We're going to light up the 2 little crystals that go here. Now you can see in its basic form here, this is the NX. It had a crystal here, and it had, you know, a different looking impulse deck. So there's a plate that they give you that goes over top of this that has the 2 smaller crystals for the NCC 2000. So we'll put that plate on there, and we're going to run some SMDs up behind that, and that's going to light up our 2 little blue crystals here. Then of course we got to light the impulse deck in the back. But right now what I've been doing tonight, before I came on tonight, was getting my windows done, using the same method that I was using on the rest of the hull, which is I used the included decals as a template, and I put them down on the side. Now the trick to making it work, since those are really narrow little small little decals, is I sprayed about 3 coats of Testors decal bonder over the top of them, and I let it dry overnight, because if you don't, when you start drilling on them, they're going to start trying to lift up and peel apart and crack apart and move, and you'll have no template left by the time you're trying to finish drilling the windows. But they all stayed in place, and I was off just a little bit on a couple of them, but that's not a big deal. I'm just basically getting them roughed in, and once I finish roughing them in, if they're a little bit off, I'm just going to take a little bit of my perfect plastic putty and just skim over it, and then really carefully go in there with my little tiny micro pin vise here, and just lightly file on them here and there, and reshape them. You know, the putty will dry nice and hard, but it will shape and file easier than this plastic would originally. So basically all I'm trying to do is get these roughed in, and if there's a couple little mistakes, which are bound to happen, you can definitely go back and clean that up, and the putty will be hard enough where you can shape it. You know, it won't just crumble on you. If you try to use this kind of putty to do something like that, it won't work. It's too soft. You'll literally just go through it like butter when you're. Again, this spot putty here is not intended for any kind of structural work. Okay, it's only intended to fill in minor pits and really small seams and stuff like that. You're going to have to use like a Squadron or perfect plastic putty, or this Vallejo putty that's out there, or there's a few other brands. Regular Carbondo, the metal glaze that's out there. The plastic version of that. There's all kinds of stuff, but if you're going to do something like this, you're going to have to use a putty that you know dries kind of hard. So maybe even epoxy sculpt, that might work. But so I've got about a couple good 4 or 5 hours probably left. Maybe not quite that long. I've got these smaller groupings of windows done here around the ridges, and those are just round ones, and they came out perfect. It's the elongated ones that you have to worry about, because you want to make sure you keep them about the same length and about the same width apart. They're never going to be 1,000% perfect on something this small, but you want to get them to where they're, to the ordinary eye looking at it, that they look pretty good. And you can see that we got to do some cleaning up on the inside. When you drill them out, you wind up with these burrs and everything in here, and I just take some this really coarse 180 grit sandpaper and just go around that, and that will knock all those down right away. Now, one little thing that I do too to clean up, sometimes after you drill holes and do all that filing and everything, you wind up with like a little bit of kind of fuzzy styrene still laying in there. I'll just take a paintbrush and dip it in some acetone, maybe cut with a little bit of water, and I'll just brush over it, and that actually goes in there and melts those tiny little fibers of styrene. It won't melt the overall thing, but it'll melt those all, and it'll clean them all up, and it'll make this look like it was cut at the factory. I mean, like really clean. It'll get rid of all that, that kind of jaggedy, fuzzy stuff that might be left over in there. That's a tip that I learned from a guy that does U-boats when I was doing all the limber holes, the drainage holes on that U-boat I did a long time ago. I think his name is Wet Willie CCMA over at his YouTube channel. He does a lot of U-boats, and he had that little tip on there, and that really works good. So a few more hours on the saucer, a little bit of paint touch-up on the hull, and then painting these, and then of course we got to lay down all the Aztec decals. But my goal is by the end of this week to have this model done. I'm just kind of spending some, a few hours on my client builds during the day. Then in the evening, I'm working on this a little bit, and I think I'm making pretty good progress. I've only been working on it for a couple of days. I probably only have about 20 hours in it so far, and it's probably more than halfway done. So I'm really pleased with how it's coming so far, and I think I'll be able to make my completion date here. And I really like working on this kit. It's fun to go back and kind of do some of the old school stuff the way I started out my channel, where I had to figure all this stuff out and hadn't built this model before and hadn't lit it or anything and had to solve some problems. So but that's an update on the Excelsior. What we're going to do now is take another quick break, guys, and then we're going to come back, and we've got this Photon torpedo firing board from Ralph, and we're going to get this on the bench, and we're going to solder it up. Now, some of Ralph's boards come with a pre-installed wire harness. This one does not, so we've got to do some soldering directly to the board here, so we're going to be really careful and do our connections. It's actually pretty easy to set it up, so for those of you out there who have never done one of these before, you get a chance to get a few tips on that. So one more break again, guys. We'll be right back. See you in just a couple seconds. Alright, back with you again, guys, for the final segment of tonight's show. We're going to be working on our Tenant Controls control board here. This is the photon firing board. Let me see if Ralph's got a part number on this or not, so I can tell you which one it is. It's called model number Photon-B. Now, Ralph actually gave me a nice little deal on this board. I was actually going to use this for one of my other models, and I haven't gotten around to working on it yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it on this one. Normally this board will fire, it will do the photon torpedo firing effect, such as you see on the Enterprise refit, where you've got the two forward torpedoes located there just above the deflector dish. So you get a left and a right firing effect, and it'll fire one time and then stop until you push the button again. And it also has sound with it. Well, this particular board does not have any sound output on it. I just told Ralph, just knock me out of board real quick to do the firing effect. I wasn't going to worry about sound, but I decided I do want some sound with that. So what we're going to do is on the next video that I make on the regular channel, which will be Excelsior update number 2, I'm going to program one of my soundboards and put my own sounds onto this, and I'm going to sync it up with this. So basically what I got to do is I got to get this working, and then I got to run it, and I'm going to take my little stopwatch here, and I'm going to time this so that I can see, okay, once I push the momentary switch, how long does it take before it lights up, and then it does the firing effect, and then how long does it take between that, and then the second one fires. And then I'll when I set up my sound file on my sound board, I'll match it up with that, and I'll run both boards off the same momentary switch. So when I hit that, this will come on and my sound effect will come on, and hopefully I'll be able to sync it up. But for tonight, what we're going to do is we're just going to get the board itself working and show you how it looks. So you can see we start off here with a bare board. You got your instruction sheet from Ralph, which is really simple and straightforward, with our wiring schematic there on this side, and then some written instructions on this side on how to hook it up. So actually the written instructions are on the first page. So this is pretty straightforward. Now the way he's got this one set up is that you do not need any resistors on your LEDs that you're going to use. So what I did is the SMDs that I used inside our hull, which I showed you the lighting on, I had a temporary resistor on those when I was lighting them up to show you so I didn't burn them out. But I cut the resistors off of all those SMDs, so we're running them straight through. If we leave a resistor on there, they may or may not light at all, because now with the board being designed with resistors already mounted on the board itself, you want to make sure you don't make the mistake of hooking them up and using resistors, because you're going to be limiting the current so much at that point with the combination of the resistor on the board and the one that's on the SMD or the LED or whatever you're using. It might be too much, and the LED might not even light, and boy, you don't want to have that happen if you've got it already mounted inside the model and everything is all sealed up. So we've got all of our LEDs set up correctly, actually SMDs in the model. They don't have any resistors on them, and so we're going to be able to connect them directly to this board now. Now we've got a separate channel here. We've got a right and a left. Now I've got to go back and look. There's a certain shot at the end of Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country when Sulu when the Enterprise and the Excelsior are both battling the Klingon bird of prey, and when it becomes visible, Sulu gives the order to destroy it, and it shows a perfectly clear shot of the Excelsior firing a photon torpedo out. It fires two. It fires one out each side. Well, I want to try to remember or go back and see like which side fires first, because like on the Enterprise refit, it has a certain way. I think it fires on the starboard side first and then the port side if he's going to fire two of them. So I want to kind of make sure I copy that effect. But we just need to make sure here that we get our wires connected properly, and then once I figure that out, it's just a matter of hooking the correct side up to each one, because we've got a port and a starboard. But we basically connect our LEDs up to this. So I'm just gonna connect two short lengths of wire onto our two channels here for our light up effect for our photons, and then we've got to connect a wire for a momentary switch and a wire for the two wires for the power coming in. So I've got my little 30 gauge wrapping wire here, which I use for just about everything. We're going to go ahead and get the board secured up here on our little helping hands, which I'm about due for a new one of these. This thing has really been through hell and back. It's down to where it's only a helping hand now, not hands. So I got to stop by the hobby store and pick up a new one of these, but we'll get this up on here and get her at a good angle here where we can see it. And we've got these two here in the front first. I want to make sure, let's see if it says the difference here. I'm just reading real quick. He's got the symbol here for the LED. Okay. Alright, well, let's start off with the power wire where I think about that for a second. That's coming in up here at the top of the board. We have a plus and a minus symbol there. That's for the speaker, which we're not going to use. And over here we have battery input in, plus and minus. Okay, so it's these two little terminals right here on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and tin those first. I'm just going to put a tiny little drop of solder on that. I'm going to use my magnifying glasses here. Got my solder iron warmed up real good here. Just takes a tiny little drop. That's it. Okay, so we're going to go with our ground wire first. If I can get some off of here. My roll has gotten kind of crazy on me here. We don't need a lot because we're going to tie that in to the power in the saucer. Okay. I'm going to mount both of these boards inside the saucer of the model, which is the way I pretty much always do it, and these are small enough where they'll fit in there pretty easily. And to light it, we're just going to put some LED strip lighting up in there. Let's go ahead and get this ground one put on first. Alright, looks pretty good. Wire's a bit too long. Okay. I'm going for the plus side now. I'm giving these a nice little tug to make sure that they're on there good. Good to go. Alright. Cut this at the same length here. Alright, so we're good to go on our power input now, and this board will run between 9 and 12 volts DC power, sort of kind of standard. I'm running the model at 9 volts, so we're good with that. Okay, now up here at the top we have a little, we've got to tie in our momentary switch. And that is on terminal number 2 at the top, which I see. And then C2 at the bottom, which I see that one, okay. So we're going to use this black wire. Boy, I'm having a hard time getting any wire off this, guys. I'm going to have to take my time here one of these nights and unravel this thing and straighten it out. What a mess. Okay. Let's go ahead and get that both of these terminals tinned first. Now we're ready to put our wire in. Let's go for the top one here first. Looks good. Okay. This isn't going to take long at all, guys. Alrighty. That one's done. Now, I've got to study this a little bit just to see. Usually he tells you plus and minus on your LED, but this he's just got a symbol on there, and I'm trying to make sure I don't get it backwards. Cathode side, anode side. Okay, if I'm reading this correct, the negative is the upper terminal and the positive is the lower, so I'm going to go ahead and tin these. Alright, let's get some wire in there. These are just going to be short little lengths because I've got plenty of wire coming in from the harness that I made that runs through the model. Okay, there's one. Number two, about the same length. Now for our red wires. Now if I got this backwards, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I'll just make a note of that, and it won't damage anything if you do hook them up backwards. It just won't work. Okay. little bit of practice if you haven't done these before. It's mainly about keeping your solder small. You don't want to put big blobs of solder on there, and you definitely want to use, you know, some magnifying glasses or something like that so you can get really up close and see it. You don't want to be splashing solder around on this board. There are a bunch of little contact points on here, and if you get some solder crossed over somewhere where it shouldn't be, it won't work. You'll probably burn it out. So just keep that in mind. Just be careful. But again, a lot of Ralph's newer boards come with a wiring harness already attached, so you just connect those to your other wires to your model and you're good to go. Let's get these wires stripped. Okay. One left. All right. Okay, now we can take the board off of our holder here, shut our solder supply down. Okay guys, I'm going to, before I go any further, I'm going to label these wires so that I don't make any mistakes. And when I put it up inside the saucer, I can still remember what they were when I get done hooking everything up. Then I go ahead and remove the labels at the very end. These right here are pretty much self-explanatory, but these ones on the sides, I want to make sure we got our trigger wire here and our power. We want to make sure we don't mix those up. The trigger wire basically is hooks up to the momentary switch, which when you push the button, that's what activates the board and makes the photon firing effect. So that's got to be that wire has to be run down all the way through and down to our base, which I've got that wire already pulled through on the model and labeled on the harness on the model. So we're just going to call this one the power. Okay. And we're going to call these other two the trigger. Alright, properly labeled so we don't confuse it. We should now be ready to test it. So I'm going to grab just a couple of 5mm red LEDs. Let me do that really quick. Alright, and we'll just temporarily connect these on here. Down, one to go. Okay, I'm going to turn this and tape these down so you guys can see them. Hopefully I'll have them pointing right at the camera here for you. And when they light up, you get to see a good effect on them here. Bend them up just a little bit. Okay, got our trigger wire here. Tape that down. All I have to do is touch these two leads together to simulate the button working, and we should be good. Okay, this is the power wire, so we're just going to tape that down too. Connect our power. See why I like using this tile thing. It comes in really handy. It's a nice little work platform. Okay. Okay, nothing should happen until we hit our momentary switch here. Let's try that. And there you go, guys. There's one. I saw one of them fire. Let's see if it... Did I miss the other one? One. Second one's not firing. Okay, we got to figure out why. Did I lose my connection? Okay, I think this one is actually... It seems to be quite a delay before this one's firing, so I think this one is actually firing first. We're just not seeing it light up. Let me... one thing I can check here is I'll lightly retouch the solder on my connection here and see if that's the issue. That's why you build them and test them before you put them in, guys. Alright. It could be that, or it could be we have the polarity backwards on the bulb, and we'll find out real quick. I'm sure it's not the board. Solder looks like it came through good on the bottom. You never know, though. Just give my iron a second to warm up here. There we go. I'm going to put just a little tiny more drop of solder on that. Okay, I know it's soldered good, so let's try it again. Still no firing on that side. Alright, last resort here, guys. We're going to reverse the polarity on this bulb. Could be that I actually hooked it on the wrong side myself there. The longer leg is always the plus on your LEDs. Maybe I hooked it up backwards. Alright, one more time. There we go, guys. It was hooked up backwards. Alright, problem solved. Let's get these where you can see them a little bit better. turn off this light. And here we go. Fire torpedoes. So I think you guys can see that. Again, kind of washed out in the camera. Get that nice build up first. And then the bright pulse. Alright. Oh, he's got that a little bit different. He's got it where the one that fires first stays on for a little bit and then the second one fires. That's a nice effect. Okay, so there's our photon firing effect, guys. That's going to look really nice. And the way this is going to be set up in the model is that we have a forward and a rear torpedo launcher, so it's basically going to fire the forward and the rear one at the same time, just on each side. Yeah, Ralph actually does make a quad firing board that you can have, 1, 2, and then go to the back, 3, 4. But for this, it's going to be fine the way it is, because you can't see them both at the same time anyway. We can either look at the rear and fire both of them, or we can look at the front and fire both of them, so this is going to be fine. Now, like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this just like this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot a video of it, and then I'm going to put it up on my screen, and then I can sit here with my stopwatch and look at it while I'm working on my soundboard, and I can get my sound files for the firing effect that I want, and I have a sound editing program that I use called Gold Wave, and I can go in there and I can either shorten or lengthen the amount of time in between each burst, and get that all edited down to where it perfectly matches up with this board, and it'll come out through the speaker on the soundboard at the same time that this fires that I'll have mounted down in the base, and it'll be a really nice little setup. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. Let me get you a little close-up of this board first before we call this a wrap, just so you guys can see it. Leave it all stuck down on here. And there she is, guys. And, pretty easy to set it up. We only had to make, let's see, we only had to make 8 connections on that. That's not bad at all. So it's a nice little board, and again, you can get those from Ralph at tentacontrols.com. He's got several different versions there depending on which ship you're building, but I think this is his kind of generic model. So alright, guys, let's see, we're about 8:30 here, so we're about an hour and a half in. We're going to call that a wrap for tonight's work on the bench. Hope you enjoyed all the updates we had on the Excelsior for you. Don't forget, probably Tuesday I'll be back on the regular TrekWorks channel with another update. We're going to call that part 2. I'm not sure how many parts there'll be, maybe 3, maybe 4, because we're going to mainly focus on the next part on showing you the secondary hull all put together and painted, and then the work on the saucer, getting the boards mounted in there, and maybe we'll include getting the saucer mounted on top, and then part 3 will probably be putting on all the Aztecs and all the markings and everything, getting the model all prettied up, and then we'll see if we get into a part 4 or not, because we got to mount it on a stand and everything too. But my goal is by the end of this upcoming week to have this model done. Okay, guys, so quick break again here. When we come back, we're going to go to our shout-outs and our question and answer session for tonight. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves in the chat session. Looked like we had quite a few people in here when we started off the show, so I'll see you guys all over there in just a couple seconds. Be right back, everyone. Okay, everybody, back with you. Hope you enjoyed what we had for you tonight. Got a little bit more done on the old Excelsior and had a look at the 350 Classic Enterprise kit. Again, really happy with that new kit too. It's going to be a beauty to work on, and that smooth saucer is really, really nice. So if you have an old kit and you want to upgrade that, I think it's definitely worth it. Time to head over to our shoutouts and our Q&A for tonight, guys. Let's see who's here. Looks like we got about 82 people watching right now, so we had a nice little turnout tonight. Appreciate you guys being here. We got Dennis with Federation Shipyard. Nice to see you, Dennis. I know Dennis is working on a Classic Enterprise, a 350 scale. I'm not sure if he finished it yet or not. Leona Timber Company, George Volkowski. We've got Armando with DLC Model Builders. Nice to see you tonight, Armando. Outsider 238, John Bennett, Mike Kovac. Mike, congratulations on finishing up your cancer awareness build. I saw your Tom Daniel garbage truck build. Left you a little comment on your channel over there. Great job on that, and thanks for participating in that group build. That was for a worthy cause. Omar is here tonight. Nice to see you, Omar. Omar just posted some pictures of his Deadpool figure on the Model Shop Google community. It's beautiful work he's doing on that. Really an awesome paint job. We got Barek 13, Dadnator 24, Jim Clark, Maker Mike. Nice to see you tonight, Maker Mike. Mark Shue, Joey 66, Barry Steinage. Oh, he's rubbing it in. He says he's down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, wearing t-shirts and shorts. Well, good on you. We'll be back up to probably in the 60s or 70s here in the next few days where I'm at. This is kind of a freak of nature going on right now. Let's see, Jim Clark. Got Eric Hawkins, the Kit Bash Kid, here tonight. Nice to see you, Eric. Dan Harris. Mike Scarola. Philip Cornwall. Philip's got a question here. It says, I just posted another question on the Excelsior build part 1 about using an adjustable flashing blinking light circuit board for a photon torpedo firing effect. Well, I'm not sure what the question is, Philip. I'll have to go over there and look at it, and I'll put a reply over there, but you should be able to use that kind of a board if you want to. Let's see. Gadgetron 3000's here with us tonight. Brian Knowles, nice to see you, Brian. Bill Tilley's here tonight. Red Shirt Forever. Cyrogen UK. He's staying up late for us, so appreciate that. Okay. Oh, it just all of a sudden jumped and skipped over a whole truckload of people here, guys. Let me roll back to the top. I don't want to miss anybody. Okay, we've got DAC 75. Outsider 238's asking a question about, does anybody out there have the Roddenberry's Vault DVD? I'm supposed to be getting that for Christmas, Outsider. Yeah, I've been hearing good things about it. He mentions here that there's a bunch of behind the scenes, never before seen stuff from the classic series. So I'm all about the classic series, so I think that's going to be pretty cool. We've got Adam Corville with us tonight. Nice to see you, Adam. Mike Mitchell, Sean McClure, Rick O'Connor, Gary Jacquard, Big Stats, negative 77 degrees. Wow, that's nasty. I actually don't feel so bad now. Ron Mac 95. Looks like the cold weather Arctic blast is the topic of discussion tonight. It's hitting all over the country apparently. John Petrie. Oh, John's still up here. Wait. Poor John, we had to move our time back an hour and he's over in the UK. Well, good on you, John. We appreciate you being here with us, man. It's late there. Well, it's actually early there, I should say. It's in the morning for him. He's probably about ready to get up and go to work. Let's see, a few more people popping in here. David Punton. He's also in the UK. We have a worldwide crowd of modeling enthusiasts here. That's always really cool to think about that. Oh, Mr. Ralph Tenaglia himself is here tonight. With tenant controls. Ralph was probably watching the video and said, "Boyd, you dummy, you hooked up the LED backwards. It's not my board, damn it. There's nothing wrong with my board." We got it figured out, Ralph. It works really good. And showing the size of that one, guys, and then the size of the... I'll show you this one, too. I forgot to do that. I was going to do that in that little segment. Here's the board for our navigation and strobe lighting from Ralph as well at Tenant Controls. You can see it's about the size of a camera, you know, a video camera, a SIM card or DIM card or whatever you want to call it. So we're not going to have any problem at all fitting both of those inside the saucer, even though that model's kind of small. We'll have plenty of room. So that's the plan for that. Again, when I go to part 2 in that video series, you'll see all that being installed and how we wire it all up and everything. Ralph says he's also going to have a 4-output torpedo launcher coming for the Renegades. Always coming out with new stuff, Ralph is. Roger Ball checking in. Christopher Baxley. Yeah, don't forget if you're here, guys, if you're in the chat, to just type your name in there, or type some kind of comment in there real quick so your name pops up, and I'll make sure I catch you. The Captain, Rocket Boy 1969. Nice to see you, Mike. We got James Frost, eBiker 56. Nice to see you tonight, James. He's up in Canada, so I'm sure it's probably cold up there too. Ron Mac 95 is asking about Ferengi. Well, I don't know, Ron. I don't know what kind of models there are for Ferengi ships out there. I know they make that 3-ship adversary set, but that model that with a Ferengi ship in there is way smaller than the models that I like to build. Anything smaller than 1,000 scale, I'm pretty much not into it. I know they make those little cadet series ships and all that, but I'm just not really into those. I haven't ever seen a larger model of the Ferengi ship. The only Ferengi ship I'm really familiar with is the one that they had on the Next Generation that I kind of thought looked like a giant electric shaver. But you never know. If I come across a nice kit, I'm sure we'll build it up. I'll build anything Star Trek pretty much. Christopher Baxley, the kit base. A few more people popping in here. There's Chuck Brooks, Gearhead Workshop, Bill Kittleman, Thomas Johnson, Rick O'Connor, Gadgetron 3000 says the updated color guide for the 1350 TOS Enterprise, does it show just the color swatches and no specific paint brands provided? Yeah, there's no paint brands. You're basically looking at this point, mixing up your own paints. But I know that Gary Kerr over there, who's kind of the guru about the original Enterprise, that's doing a lot of consulting work with Round 2, apparently he's working with a group of people, and they're going to try to cross-match or cross-reference some readily available hobby paints that you could either buy straight out of the can or out of the bottle, or perhaps mix together to come up with these colors to get your exact match. I won't have to worry about that because I always mix my own colors. I can look at that color chip and make my own color for that. But the color that they have on the hull, that they show for the hull color there, it's still a little bit too green. You know, I would have no problem painting the model if my client wanted it that exact color, but for myself, I wouldn't paint it that shade. I'd go a little bit lighter, because what's on the actual model and what you actually see on the screen are two different things. You know, we're not going to go down that road about the color of the Enterprise argument, because to me it's an unwinnable, unsolvable discussion. Everybody in the world has their own, you know, sort of take on that, but for my own eye, I would not go with that particular shade. I kind of fancy the shade that they have listed on here for the Pilot Edition, which is more of a whitish gray, and not the green. But again, it's everybody's own preference. You know, very seldom when you see the actual studio model of your favorite subjects, you know, from big sci-fi films and stuff like that, very seldom do they appear in person in regular room lighting the way that they do when they appear on film. You know, they do all kinds of post-production work when they film these miniatures, whether they use filters on the cameras, the lighting in the studio. It could be a lot of things. And I prefer to have the model kind of look the way it looks, the way we saw it, and not the way it actually maybe is in person. But again, that's everybody's own individual choice. And I'm doing this Excelsior in a pearl white, and I think that's going to look really sharp with the Aztec decals. Oh, one thing I was going to talk about tonight, guys, and I forgot to mention that too. At the beginning of this whole thing, I mentioned that Dale Anderson, who sent us the kits, he also sent us these A Creation decals. And I've got to say, guys, you know, I don't like to say anything bad about any products. And somebody else might have some success, but I've usually been pretty good with working with decals. I've fought my way through some really bad decals in the past, but I can't say that I'm very pleased with this decal set. I've already gone ahead and ordered the set that's available from AMT Round 2 for this model. My two main complaints about these is that they are done on such super ultra thin film. Even after I sprayed them down with some sealer, and in the instructions they don't even recommend that you do that. That they literally, I have a special toothpick that I keep around here that what I've done is I've taken the end and I've burnished it down so it's really dull. And since it's wood, it will grab a hold of the decals when I need to slide them around. You know, like when you put them on your model and they're not exactly where you want them to be, but they won't move. You try it with your finger or whatever. Well, I do that with this little, and I've never ever ripped a decal doing that. Well, these literally everywhere I would even touch them on any spot that had color or whatever, it'd just poke a hole right through it. I mean, these were, how do I say this, more fragile than wet tissue paper. I mean, they literally were, they weren't crumbling, but the film was just so thin, and they wrinkled up really, really bad. And if you got one where you happen to get a little, you know, part of it folded over, even trying to slide it off the film without it folding over, like really carefully, a lot of them folded over on me, and trying to get them unfolded, you just destroyed them. And the ones that I did get to lay down onto the model, the color appeared to be so faint, especially on the Aztecing, that you know, like these gray Aztec panels, you couldn't even see them. And I was like, wow, that's why even have them there if they're going to be that faint? I mean, if you want to have Aztecs on your model, you want to put them on there strong enough where you definitely can see them if you're going to go to the trouble to do all that work. So I'll save this set. I may use it on some, you know, maybe kit bash or some. Maybe I'll need to do some patchwork sometime on something where I need some Aztecs. But I went ahead and ordered the round 2 because they usually are on some pretty sturdy film, and they'll also be die cut, so I won't have to worry about cutting them all out either. But I have used A Creation in the past and been quite happy with them. I've used them on the I used them on my 1/350 scale NX01, and they came out absolutely gorgeous. But they weren't anywhere near on that thin of backing film as these are. So maybe somebody else out there is, you know, better with decals than me, but I think I'm pretty good on decals. I think you guys have seen me on here work through some real issues with decals, and I'm kind of known about getting my decals looking good on my models. But that stuff would be you know, almost impossible to get down on there without doing some kind of damage. And I did a small little section on the top of the secondary hull, you know, like kind of where the pylons go on. And in just a little about 4-inch long section, there was already 3 or 4 gouges in it and everything. I was like, man, by the time I get, you know, you get 1 or 2 tiny ones, you let it dry and everything and clear coat it, you can take and mix up some paint really carefully and match it if it's a color or something, and you can touch that up on there and then paint, you know, clear over it again, and you can't even tell if it's only a few spots. You know, that happens to everybody. But this thing would have been like totally by the time I can tell just in that little section, if it would have been going like that, it would have okay guys, I see that takes care of that. Yeah, it would, if it would have kept going that way, the whole thing would have looked, you know, terrible by the time I was done, and plus I would have wasted a lot of time, and I would not have been happy with it. I'm trying to do such a nice job on this model. I'm not gonna, you know, settle for something like that and cut corners. And so I was able to find the Aztec decals from round 2 online from eBay for like $23 with free shipping, so they're on their way. I think I'll get them probably by tomorrow, and I'll show you those, of course, when I get them. And that'll be part of the build series when you see them getting applied on the model, and I'll give you kind of some feedback about how those work. Unfortunately, you know, not everything is perfect. And again, I know A Creation puts out a lot of products, and a lot of people use their stuff, but that particular set right there, maybe I just got a bad batch or something. That's why I don't want to say something bad about them overall. I have used them on other stuff, and I was really pleased. So, but not this time. Okay, guys, I'm just going to scroll through here and see if anybody new has popped in or if we've gotten any more questions. I see Kenny with Sci Fantasy was here. Nice to see Kenny in here with us. Somebody, at least he wasn't in here trying to disrupt things too much, guys. He was just trying to get some free advertising there, it looks like, for his website. Whoever the guy was, Techistry. So, we've actually been pretty lucky with not having too many problems with that. Okay, Tag with Tagamo Modelworks has checked in with us tonight. Tag's just got his 350 TOS kit. He got the 50th anniversary kit too, and he's going to do a build of that. So you guys will see some updates on that on our model shop page. And again, since Kenny is with us tonight at Sci-Fi Fantasy, make sure and stop by Kenny's site, sci-fi-fantasy.com. Kenny's got a really nice community over there. I'm a member over there myself. Several of the other guys that are here are members over there. There's some really cool model building blogs over there. There's quite a few modelers, sci-fi modelers that make posts and update their videos over there. You might not even see them on YouTube, but you'll find them over there. They give detailed information about how they build their models, lots of pictures, lots of info. There's info over there about upcoming events that they're having over there, such as the Model of the Year contest they got going on now. They got other things that they do. They talk about new kits and products that are coming out. It's a great website, and Kenny does a good job running it. He doesn't let any of that nasty stuff go on like you see on so many other forums. So good on you for that, Kenny. And Kenny does a great job of promoting this hobby in a really positive way, and he works really hard at it. Kenny also has his own YouTube channel, which I'm subscribed to. So give Kenny some love, man. Go over there and sign up. You'll like what you see over there. Several of the guys on here tonight have got some of their models entered into the Model of the Year contest. I know Adam Corville's got his beautiful Space 1999 Eagle. Chuck Brooks has his Enterprise refit. Probably a few guys I'm missing, but make sure you go over there and give those guys some kudos, guys. They put a lot of work into maintaining a community like that, and the guys that did all the work building the models, show them some appreciation, just even a nice comment. And that's all good for everybody, guys. Roger Ball says, sounds like a clear top coat. Yep, that's exactly what I did, Roger. It's standard procedure. When you get a set of aftermarket decals, whether the instructions tell you to or not, you should always coat those with some lacquer. Now, you can either go with a matte lacquer or you can go with a gloss lacquer. Now, I use Tester's Decal Bonder or the clear lacquer from All-Clad. But yeah, that's standard procedure, and I did that. I mean, it didn't make any difference in the world. These things are just, like I said, I consider myself pretty good with decals, and I think pretty much anybody would have a difficult time working with those. They were just so fragile, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of complex. The model is going to be basically almost wallpapered when you're done, and when I do those, I like them, to lay down on there to where, once I clear coat it and everything, that they look like they're painted on, not to see any lifted up edges or any rough, stuff like that. And as many complex curves and shapes that those decals were going to have to go around, I thought, man, these things are going to get ripped to shreds. There's no way. I mean, because to try to put it on there, like I said, even as soon as I was trying to slide it off of the film, and I have a technique where I'll lay the film down on the model and let it slide off onto the model so it never gets a chance to curl or wrinkle or anything. I've shown my technique for doing that here on some of my builds. Even before I could do that, just getting it on the paper, the edges were starting to curl up. And if it folded under, you weren't going to get it back apart without wrecking it. That's just how they were. Sad to say, because they're a beautiful set of decals. And like I said, on the sheet, the color on them shows up pretty good. But on this white pearl, these gray colors for these Aztecs, they just about totally disappeared where you couldn't see it at all. And I was like, wow, why would you want to go to all that trouble putting them on there when you really can't even see them? If I'm going to do Aztecs, I want them to be seen. That's the whole point. You don't want them to be overpowering, but when you get up and look at it, you want to definitely be able to tell that they're there, because that's a heck of a lot of work. Looks like we got a few people starting to check out. I'm just going to scroll through here and look for any more questions, guys, and I'm going to get ready to do the same thing. We're up on 9 o'clock here, 2 hours or so. Yeah, just seen a few comments about the decals. Like I said, I'll be sure and give you guys an update or some feedback on the decals from round 2, but if they're their usual fare, I'm pretty I'm pretty sure they'll be okay. They tend to be on a little bit thicker film, and they're they're already die cut. You know, they're already cut out for you, so um, you know they should be pretty straightforward. We'll just have to see if their instructions have any mistakes or anything on them. Somebody mentioned to me that there were some mistakes in the instructions for the decals that come with the model. You know, the markings, like the red pinstriping on the bottom of the saucer, they have it going on the wrong section. So like the curve isn't right, so you got to move it back one further more in. I did see that. So, but that's okay. We can work through mistakes on the instructions as long as the decals themselves are okay. Leona Timber Company says, "Are we still considering the 48-hour build?" Good thing you brought that up, Leona. Yes, we are. Uh, I probably should post something over there on the page. I'll get something posted maybe after I sign off tonight. Just a general outline of what it's going to be. I'm looking at starting it like towards the end of January. Let's get past the holidays, let everybody get back to normal and get kind of settled down, and that'll give you a little bit of lead time to where you can decide what kit you want to do, or if you haven't got a kit, you can pick one up. Um, you know, it'll be nice if everybody could finish them in for the 48 hours, but if you don't, you don't, guys. I don't want to put any pressure and make anybody feel bad. Um, so one word of advice is maybe don't pick a kit that is really a. Don't try to build a 350 Enterprise in 48 hours, guys. Get yourself a nice little kit, a little car kit, a little plane kit, figure, something like that, and let's just have some fun. Any subject you want, guys. No rules, nothing going on. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna do like a first, second, and third place People's Choice Award. We'll do a poll. We'll put that up on the site after the whole thing is over and we got all the pictures up. And the 3 models that you guys like the best, we'll send them some, something for their effort. Probably not going to be nothing big and fancy. I'm on a budget here, but we'll give some guys something for, for putting in the effort. And I know I'm going to take part. I've got a kit already picked out to work on, and but I think that'll be fun. And just a real simple little deal. And what I thought might be kind of neat is if some of you guys out there that have YouTube channels, or even if you don't have a YouTube channel, if you want to shoot a little bit of video of your experience, you don't have to, like, not obviously not 48 hours long, but maybe like take a 10 or 15-minute video and maybe do a time lapse thing or something and show what your experience was like, going through it, like what challenges you faced, or maybe you had a really easy time at it. And we have Dropbox and we have Google Drive, so you guys can send me your video file directly if you don't post it on YouTube or something like that. And I could put a few of those together, and that maybe a couple weeks later we could have some fun and we could show that one night here on the show and have some laughs about everybody's experience getting it done. And I thought that might be kind of fun. So think about that one too, guys. I'll throw that out there in the description, and we'll see what we get from that. But I think we're going to call this one a wrap, guys. I'm not seeing anything popping up for specific questions. I'm sorry if I missed anything. They scroll by really fast. I thought I saw one coming through there from somebody asking about building a model for them or something. The best way to contact me on that is through my email. I may not answer it for a day or two because I'm just out here working my tail off, but I will eventually find it. I have them coming in on a separate email address, so if I don't answer you right away, don't panic. And if it gets to be more than a couple days, just go ahead and try and email me again. But I'm just spending all my time working out here. I don't even pick up my phone. People try to call me all the time, and I'm seeing messages on my phone like 4 or 5 hours later. So I'm kind of in my own little world right now. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, tonight. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. If I don't see you before then, have a Merry Christmas, you guys. All my good friends out there, you guys be safe, be careful, get some good quality time with your families. I hope you get a few model kits. Maybe Santa will be nice to you this year. You guys can all bring them back and show us what you got afterwards. Until then, take care, everybody. We'll catch up with you in 2 weeks. Have a good one, guys. Good night.